This Perp back with another video, and this is my Shogun episode 1 review. They dropped both episodes on Hulu, and man, I feel like we have a special show on our hands. I'm just gonna give you my breakdown, and if you really enjoyed this review, consider hitting that subscribe button, hit that like button. That will let me know that you want to see an episode 2 review. With that being said, let's get right into this episode. And they pretty much break down exactly what's going on in this world. We're in like 1600s Japan, and the Portuguese are going kind of crazy against Japan, and there is a death of the shogun, our original shogun, and now it's up to these five lords to kind of maintain the peace until the heir is of age where he could take over as the shogun and whatnot, which I really like that. I like that they give us that information. Now we get introduced to one of our first characters, John Blackthorne. He's on this ship, and immediately as I started to watch this, I was like, this is kind of giving me Wano vibes from One Piece, in a sense, where you got pirates coming to this sacred land and whatnot, and they want to pretty much take over, and that's what John's whole mission is. But his captain is really not, on the same page no more. They seem they've been, out in sea for forever looking for this bit of land, and his captain ends up taking his own life, and now they are kind of just stuck with the ship, which ends up getting washed up on shore. And now we have this character, I'm just gonna call him the nephew, finds this ship and finds all these different people in it, and they've never seen white people, so they're like, what are they? And they see that there's all this stuff upon the ship, like weapons and whatnot, which becomes a very interesting theme throughout this whole entire show. Then we get introduced to Yoshii. I'll just call him Yoshii. He's another one of our main characters, that he's one of the five lords. Very powerful person, but as soon as he meets with the other lords, they're just not liking the way that he's moving. He is more so respecting the old shogun's wishes to, maintain the peace between the five until the heir is of age. But they don't want to wait. They just want power, and they see Yoshii as a threat. He's the only one that can kind of get in their way, so they decide to impeach him and just really talk bad about him. And then one of his sons kind of hops out of line and tries to defend Yoshii, and that causes a lot of issues with their family now, because now that puts their family at danger, like the heir at danger, and not only the heir, but Fuji, the mother. But going back to the ship, you have John trying to rally up the troops here, just give them some motivation, like a motivational speech, I should say. And he's pretty much like, we're here. It's only a matter of time before we take over. We don't die here. And very interesting character that John is, you know what I'm saying? And I'm curious to see where he goes throughout this first season. But going back to Fuji, she's about to kill off herself because she doesn't want her son to be taken away, but this was a order from the higher ups and whatnot. And then this is where we get introduced to my personal favorite character, Mariko. She seems like she's going to be a very interesting character. She's the one that's able to talk Fuji out of like hurting herself, and seems like that took a lot out of her, a lot of energy to kind of do that, because if she wasn't there a second earlier or at that time, Fuji probably would have, taken her own life. Now we go back to John, as they want to talk to, he wants to talk to his superiors and whatnot, and nobody can really understand what he's saying. And I like that throughout this whole entire series, that they keep people that are Japanese speaking Japanese, you know what I'm saying? It wouldn't make sense for them to speak English, because I know a lot of people have issues with subtitles, but it makes complete sense in this case. So they need like a translator, and they're just trying to figure out any information about this character because they don't know where he came from. He's just trying to keep a low profile. He doesn't want to tell nobody that where he's coming from, even though as he's being transported, we see the nephew slice one dude's head clean the fuck off, bro, because that's just how it is in Japan, where they don't tolerate no BS. Like, you do anything to disrupt the what they got going on, they will not hesitate to kill you. Even though John is really good at getting himself out of sticky situations, you know, even when he comes face to face with the uncle here, and the uncle doesn't really understand what he's saying at all, but this guy that works for them is pretty much warning him that this guy is dangerous, like he's a pirate, you should not trust him. He ends up being put on the chopping block and pretty much replaced. This also cost one of John's men, as well as now they're being put on the chopping block. While this is going on, we get a little flashback scene like a year before all of this stuff transpired, where we see Yoshii not really wanting to accept the role of Shogun. He just doesn't like the burden. But this old lady is saying, like, no, like, somebody has to lead, and it has to be you. It has to be a good man. And, you know, I really like all that. But back with John, as he's getting cleaned up, you see one of his men getting literally cooked alive. And I was like, man, this was such a brutal scene, because this went on for hours, and you could hear the screams throughout the village. And, you know, I just really like that. It was really dope and really well shot. Now we see this uncle character have this like little mistress, or just a sex worker, if you want to call her that. And I feel like she's kind of sus, because there's mention of like a spy, you know what I'm saying? Because originally the uncle and nephew wanted to kind of keep this under wraps, because they looked at it as like an advantage. But, you know, we see the grandfather, you know what I'm saying? We saw him talking to Yoshii earlier, and he's pretty much saying, no, like, this is all to be confiscated and whatnot, and taken to Yoshii and whatnot. And I think that's Yoshii's whole plan, is that he wants to get this arsenal so he's able to protect himself. Back over with John, he finally meets somebody that's able to speak his language, Rodriguez, and he tells him, like, yo, don't trust him. He is definitely a snake. But he has some interesting words for John, because John is very much a hothead. He looks at all these people, he looks at this land as savage, and, you know, they're heading to Osaka, and as they're heading there's this huge storm, and Rodriguez, he pretty much falls out of the boat, and this is where his pride, John's pride comes in. He's like, no, we can't just leave him out there, bro. Like, I know how you guys roll, but where I'm from, we don't leave men behind. And this leads to a really dope scene between the uncle and John, where John has this like profound moment of, damn, like, this guy was willing to risk everything. He was about to kill himself, and I didn't really understand why, but in that moment, that was a moment for him to kind of respect the culture at that moment. Then the episode ends off with Mariko talking to Yoshii and pretty much saying, like, I need you to be here when I meet this John guy so you can translate. And I feel like these three characters are going to be some of the most important, like, their alliance. I could see somewhat of a love thing going on between Mariko and John, and I'm curious to see how John's character is going to develop, you know, and how he's going to view their culture, and just how everything else is going to play out within this series, because it's a really good setup, setting up the conflict between, Yoshi and the other lords. Him being a prisoner in Osaka, the nephew and uncle relationship. I can't wait to see where that goes. Other characters down the line, like what is Mariko's whole big purpose going to be in this? And I can't wait to see how the rest of this season plays out. I really enjoyed this first episode. Really dope. Really felt cinematic. But let me know how you guys feel about it in the comments below. Till next time, I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.